Wuthering Heights is one of those operas that's always been kind of on the sidelines. A lot of people that work in the opera industry know about it. It's kind of a cult piece. It's like so many operas in the course of history that have kind of been dumped or sidelined for some reason or other. And you all wonder about if the piece is really good. Here at Minnesota Opera, we have a history of discovering those pieces and putting them on stage. Our set designer, Neil Patel, is a wonderful young set designer. Not only has he done much work for us, but he's done a lot of work around the world. He very much knows how a score flows emotionally, and his set designs tend to follow that as well.
Wuthering Heights was written in the 1950s, I believe. It's a opera based on the novel. The structure of the opera is, in a lot of ways, like a play, and it's got incredible sections of orchestral music and things that are not dialogue-based. So the real challenge I think, that the director, Eric Simonson, and I felt about staging it is how could we give it a visual life that would match the music.
So many things excite me about the production. Mainly it's the music, because I think Bernard Herrmann really just redefined writing musical scores for films. He was very, he was a very adept composer. He very much understood that late romantic European musical style. If you look at the interludes in Wuthering Heights, that music is vintage Bernard Herrmann. In fact, a couple of the interludes were used in films, particularly The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, and they're just lushly beautiful pieces of music.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference, the scale of opera usually, unless you're working in a big musical or something, it's very different than theater. And I think it is music because you have all, I think when you're designing a play, you're really responding to text and storytelling, your primary information. And in opera, you have music, and the music, sometimes it's more important that the scenery respond to the music necessarily than the story. If the scenery does anything, it has to represent well the music, I think. So I think it leads usually to more theatrical and abstract solutions than theater. Sometimes new plays really are like movies, and you have to deal with that kind of literalism.
He has a real eye for emotions, and he also has an eye for allowing the set to move with the drama. Wuthering Heights takes place in many different locales, and as I said before, it is a long piece. He knows how to design sets that move very efficiently from scene to scene, so it doesn't feel like you have to drop the curtain between a scene.
I think we can be a little loose in Wuthering Heights because it's old and decrepit.
Yeah,
and
so it
would
would
have
have
mismatched. We could have older things that look like they're from...
I think the sets and the props, they give you a lot of information about the characters. They first of all tell you where they are, maybe not completely literally, but what kind of place they're in. And they also, it's the character's relationship to the place. So, depending on how you costume them in that and stage them in an environment, like for instance, Heathcliff will look like he belongs to Wuthering Heights. He's of that place. Other people from outside are alien to it, so they will, in the same token, when he goes to Thrushcross Grove, he will look, like he doesn't belong there. So you kind of create these environments that can communicate a lot of ideas like that or information like that about the characters.
I also think that the story of Wuthering Heights, what we have to look at are the Laurence Olivier and Merle Oberon film, which was highly romantic and kind of gave the outlines of the Bronte story. This opera is much more closer to the original story with all of its kind of spiky relationships and dysfunctions. And I think that's really very interesting.
And then do you want the fireplace a little different? It looks
Yeah,
different
a
to
little
me.
bit different, a little darker.
Okay.
the tricky thing about those two locations is they are literally across the moors from each other. So they're in the same place, but they're completely different. Wuthering Heights is Heathcliff's domain. It's this decaying old manor, and it is kind of a haunted, scary place and a cold place. Manifestation of him, basically. And Thrushcross Grange is this kind of warm, cocoon-like welcoming place that is everything that Wuthering Heights isn't. So, and a kind of example of civility and custom and human conventions of behavior. And Heathcliff is kind of wild and revengeful and kind of pathological. So it's important, I think, to represent that in the set, and also, but the other challenge is to let the audience know that they are literally in the same, they're looking across at each other. In the novel, we know that because it's described, and even if you watch films, many of the various films of Wuthering Heights, you'll see the camera, you'll show, the moors, and then you'll go to Thrushcross Grange, and you see that it's in the same place. So what we chose to do is represent Thrushcross Grange very abstractly with a floor and furniture and a hovering ceiling. So we still see all the exterior behind it. So in its containment of those two pieces, everything within that is kind of this very warm and controlled palette, and it feels like a welcoming place, but you see that it's really on, like Wuthering Heights, on this kind of barren and wild landscape. Yeah, I mean, I suppose the other way to do it, because is to do it as a ground cloth.
Oh, on canvas.
On canvas, and stretch it over. I think also just in the opera and in the book, in the novel, this idea of the exterior of the moors, of nature as this kind of violent and ever-present force is really important. And it's an idea that's made manifest in the novel through description that doesn't exist in the opera. So we felt we had a big obligation to present that visually. So Eric asked the projection designer Wendell Harrington to be involved, and there is a great part of the set, both on the upstage of the set and also in a framed scrim that we bring downstage. We'll be doing a lot of projected imagery to kind of represent that idea.
I think Wuthering Heights hasn't been done since its premiere for a couple of reasons. It's a very large orchestra, which these days is sometimes difficult because of the expense. It's long. I think a lot of people take a look at the length of the piece. It's 4 acts. More than anything, I think it's expense involved. The two characters, Catherine and Heathcliff, are very difficult roles to sing. Heathcliff is kind of like Rigoletto. It's a very difficult high baritone role to sing. It's very hard to find that kind of person. Catherine is really sort of voiced somewhat like Madame Butterfly. So you kind of want these two very romantic sorts of people, but you have to get real big voices. And sometimes physically that's just hard to find as well. We're going to do it in 2 acts as opposed to 4. With some judicious cutting, we think the piece will play at about 3 hours as opposed to almost 4, which is the whole thing without cuts. Wuthering Heights I've known about really for quite a long time. I've known some of the arias, rather famous pieces, and I'm a big fan of Bernard Herrmann's music. And put those two things together, a wonderful story and wonderful music by Bernard Herrmann. And it's a great reason to resurrect this piece, which I think has been unjustly thrown away by the opera community.
So perhaps you will be glad to see me now.